Today, we will answer a math challenge given by one of our followers from India. And here's the question. Given this equation, x squared minus ax equals quantity a minus 1 multiplied by square root of x, then the goal is to evaluate this expression square root of x minus square root of x. Now pause this video right now and see if you can answer this question, because I will show you the solution in 3, 2, 1. Alright, so given this equation, x squared minus ax equals quantity a minus 1 multiplied by square root of x, then the goal is to evaluate this expression square root of x minus square root of x. Now, to answer this kind of question, of course, let's get the given equation. And notice that we have here x squared, x, and square root of x. But if we divide all of this term by square root of x, this term, we eliminate square root of x like this. And also, we can use law of exponent, because we know x squared, the exponent is 2, and this x, the exponent is 1. And square root of x, this is just x raised to the power of 1/2. So, we can rewrite this as x raised to the power of 2 minus 1/2 minus a times x raised to the power of 1 minus 1/2. And 2 minus 1/2 is equals to 3 over 2, while 1 minus 1 over 2 is simply equal to 1 over 2. And now take note, x raised to the power of 3 over 2, we can rewrite this as square root of x raised to the power of 3, and of course, x raised to the power of 1 over 2 simply equal to square root of 1x. And now, let's focus on this result, because we now have same term of square root of x. And if we have this kind of scenario, what we're going to do is to use another variable or dummy variable, and let's call square root of x be equal to y. So our equation now becomes y cubed minus a times y equals a minus 1. Now let's equate this to 0. So we have y cubed minus ay minus the quantity a minus 1 equals 0. Now notice, what if we replace y with negative 1? Now one thing to notice here is if you replace all of y with negative 1, negative 1 cubed is negative 1 for sure. Negative a times negative 1 is positive a. And if we distribute negative a to a minus 1, we have negative a plus 1. And negative 1 and positive 1 cancel out. Positive a and negative a cancel out. So technically this is just 0. And when this happens, it follows that y equals 1, simply the root of this equation. And also, we now know one factor of this cubic equation, which is y plus 1. And the question is, what is the other factor? So to find the other factor, we will use what we call the synthetic division. So let's put a hot box, and let's have the coefficient of this cubic equation. So let's start with y cubed, which is 1. We don't have y squared, so we have to replace this with 0. And the coefficient of y is negative a, and then the constant negative of the quantity a minus 1. And we know, if we divide this by negative 1, or if we evaluate this with negative 1, the remainder is 0. So let's do that. Bring down 1. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. 0 plus negative 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Negative a plus 1 is negative a plus 1. Negative a plus 1 times negative 1, this is just a minus 1. And we have negative reciprocal of a minus 1. Therefore, if we add these two together, we get 0. And now, from here, we know one factor must be equal to y plus 1. And the next question is, what is the other factor? And here it is. We have 1 y squared minus 1 y minus a plus 1. So here is the other factor of this cubic equation. So now, we know this cubic equation, we can factor this out nicely as y plus 1 multiplied by y squared minus y minus a plus 1 equals 0. And using the 0 property, we can say that y equals negative 1. And also, if we equate this to 0, we can say that y squared minus y equals a minus 1. Now, from the start, we know y is technically greater than 0 because square root of x is greater than 0. And this value, square root of x minus square root of x, technically greater than 0. So we want a number that is greater than 0. Now, y equals negative 1 is not part of our solution because negative 1 is less than 0. So the only factor that we need to answer this or to evaluate this expression is this equation y squared minus y equals a minus 1. So let's focus on this. And now, let's replace y with square root of x. And if we do that, we get square root of x squared minus square root of x. And square root of x raised to the power of 2 simply equal to x. And now, this looks something like in this expression inside the square root. And now, the last step to get this value, simply get the square root on both sides. And there you have it. The value of square root of x minus square root of x simply equal to square root of a minus 1. And this is our answer to this question. So given this equation x squared minus ax equals quantity a minus 1 multiplied by square root of x, then the value of square root of x minus square root of x equals square root of a minus 1. And as always, we are done.